Hello and welcome to Hyperdog Digital. This is Scott. Today we've got something very special for you. This is the Luidia eBeam Smartpen. I probably butchered that name, Luidia. And this is actually a device that was on one of those crowdfunding websites. I can't remember if it was Indiegogo or Kickstarter, but I did get this just the other day. So let's go ahead and pop this open and take a look at it. To give you a little bit of background on what this is, it's basically a little pen and a sensor that you can put at the top of your paper, so that when you're taking notes, you're drawing something, it will take that information and it will turn it into an electronic document that you can share to other people, or you can save in a notes app of some kind. So let's go ahead and just take a look at this. You have your instructions right here. And this is the eBeam device itself. As you can see, it's really slick looking, and it's got a little case that it unfolds here. And this case is kind of a soft material here. It's kind of like the kind of material that you'd find on some of the flap cases on tablets, where it'll have the magnetic flap that'll go over the top of the tablet. It's exactly the same kind of material, really, as you'll see on those kind of things. Move out a little bit. So this is the pen itself, and you can remove it just by pulling on the back. And there you go, right there. And you can see on here right now is the stylus tip. So you can use this as a stylus. You can write on nothing, and it will still record what you're writing. Or you can, there is actually a pen tip, and we'll take a look at that real quick as well. So you can actually write on paper, and it will record what you're writing on paper to whatever app you're using there. Now on the bottom here, you actually pull this out, and this is the sensor, and you actually put that on top of a piece of paper, and we'll use these instructions here. That's kind of a demo of that. You got a little flap here on the bottom, and you can put that right there so it holds it in place, and then you do your writing down here. You can see that holds on right there. You have to make sure you center it up, and you do your writing right there. You got a couple of buttons on here. Power button. You have a new page button, so as you're writing, if you want to do a new page, you punch that and it will save what you have and then create a new page for you. You got a couple of indicator lights. This is the sensor itself that tracks what you're writing, and a couple of points there for when you put it in here and you charge it. Now before I put that back in, you can also see down here is the actual ink pen cartridge, so you can pull out the stylus, and we'll show you. On this side you have your charger, or your charging port, I'm sorry, and that's a mini USB port there. And then to remove the tip, you actually use this little area right here. And basically, I actually thought this was a USB Type-C connection until I read the instructions. It's just got a little bit of a metal piece in here that, as you put this in and slide it to the side, it kind of grips that tip and allows you to pull out. And then you can get whatever tip you want to put in, whether it be the pen or the stylus. Now I'm just going to put the stylus back in here, and there you go. Now I have actually yet to use this. This is really, I just recently got it, and I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. So basically, I guess you could call this my unboxing. But that's it. It looks pretty neat, and the concept seems pretty cool. It seems very well put together. It is made of plastic, but it is a very hard plastic. It seems like a very durable kind of plastic. The way everything fits together and is all self-contained is also very neat. I just like the way everything looks and everything works and fits together. So we'll go ahead and take a look at actually using this, and show you that here right now. Okay, so we have had a little bit of time to play with this this awesome little device here. This is again the Luidia eBeam Smartpen. Now I know I've gone over a little bit of this when I first opened it up, but let's go through it again just to kind of give you a little idea, and maybe I had a few more tidbits that I didn't have when I first just cracked it out of the box. So this is the device here itself. This is the eBeam Smartpen. It comes in this nice little charging case, all-in-one package deal kind of thing. On this end here you have the actual connector for the charger, and it's just your standard micro USB connector, and then you have this little slot here which is used for swapping out the tips, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. And it's got this neat little magnetic case, and this is the kind of thing that you'd see on a lot of the flop or the flip cases for a tablet or a phone or something like that. It's the same kind of material, same kind of feel, kind of a soft kind of rubber, whatever, hard cardboard inside there, but it's very nice, fits over there perfectly, gives a decent amount of protection. But you open it up here, and here is the basic guts of the item. This is the pen itself, and you can just pull on the back here and pop that out, and you can see in here there's a couple of pogo pins back here that are used when you pop it in there for charging it. This is the pen itself, and there's the little pogo pins back there, and you have a little button right there, and we'll talk about what that's used for a little bit later. This area right here is part of what connects to the sensor. When you're using the pin, you have to be careful not to hold it too close and block that out, because then it will cause problems with the sensor and reading what you're putting down or what you're writing there. That for me was particularly difficult to get used to, because I do usually hold my pen pretty close down there to the end. And then of course you have the actual pen itself here, which can be swapped out for a stylus tip. And again, we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. Now also within the charger you have the base unit here and the sensor. You got a couple of different lights on here. The front part, of course, is where the sensor is itself, and we'll look and see how that's actually tracking what you're writing down. You have your power light indicator and your Bluetooth indicator, and then you have a new page button. This also will just kind of light up and tell you what you're currently doing, if it's currently in use, if it's currently connected, if you're creating a new page, so on and so forth. And of course, you have a power button over here as well, if you want to use that. But it generally will automatically power on. So if you pop it back in here, and then once you pull it out, it comes on automatically, which is pretty neat. Now you also have this little part here that flips down, and what that is for is if you have a piece of paper, we'll find one here real quick. Yeah, there we go. You have a piece of paper. For this, it's not going to work too well because of the this edge right here. But we'll flip it around like this, and assuming you have like maybe a spiral notebook or something like that, and you open a page, you slide this right onto the top of that page, and it'll hold it on there, so that as you're writing, this is on that page, and not moving around or not falling off or anything like that. Now, as I say that, just because I do have this kind of notepad here, you can still just put this right here, or put it right here, and it will work just fine. But of course, if you move this at all, it's going to slide around eventually. Oh, it actually holds pretty good, but see, it does slide. So if you do, get bumped or move around or anything like that, it's going to move a little bit, and of course that's going to throw off what you're doing as you're writing. It's going to throw things off just a little bit. So you do want to keep that in mind when you're saying what you're writing with. So that's it in a nutshell here. We'll also take a look here before I move on to the next part. Underneath here, and this is one of the reasons why I do really like this this setup that they have. I love that everything is contained in this one unit. The base, the sensor unit, the pen, everything is together and wraps up in a nice little tidy little carrying case, more or less. But underneath here, see if you can see it, is the stylus tip. And we'll pop that out real quick here. And that's it right there. Nothing too spectacular about it. It's just a big long piece of plastic. So this is using the tip removal tool here. You just put it in one end, slide it over so it catches. Oops, let's try that again. And there. Pulls it right out. And then you just grab the other one. Pop that right in there, give it a little push. You can push down on here if you want, but that's it. So now you have a little stylus on there. Alright, so that's it. I mean, that's all the pieces really. It does, let me move these down a little bit. It does come with its own little charging cable, but it's a very standard, basic, USB to micro USB charging cable. So you know, if you like me, you have 100 of those things laying around. It's kind of short, so you can definitely grab just whatever one you have laying around and get a longer one, and use that one instead if you want to. Other than that, that's it. It does come with some very basic instructions. There is an app that installs on your phone, which we will look at here in just a bit, and it actually has a pretty extensive tutorial within there, and gives you a lot of information on how to use this and use it properly and use it to your advantage. But that's it. Again, that's all that really comes in the box. That's all that there is to it. It really is pretty straightforward, and once you get used to using it, it's very easy to use. So let's actually get into using it. Okay, so let's take a look at actually using the Smartpen, right? So to use this, you have to actually download this app here, which is the eBeam Note application. And right away as you come into it, it's trying to connect to the sensor, and you can go through and you set that up initially when you first get it. There's some very good instructions for that. Nothing too complicated. So let's go ahead and take the sensor out, because that's what it's looking for. And you can see it's already blinking for the Bluetooth here. So let's go ahead and hit connect on here, and it is connecting to the sensor. So give it a second. Sometimes it takes one or two times to find it, but sometimes it'll go right away.
Connected.
And there we go. We get the nice little "we're connected" voice prompt. There's nothing really too complicated about it. You can go in here to settings, and there's a few different things you can change. And we'll take a look at this a little bit more. I'll actually do a video of the actual application, so you can see some of this stuff a little bit better, because I know it's not really easy to see on the camera like this. But you can change a couple of different things in here. You can change the name if you want to. You can get version information, see if there's a new version. You can change the default paper size so that when the sensor is reading, it's knowing how big the piece of paper is, how far to the sides it's going to go, how far down it needs to go to read what you're putting in there. And it has a few default settings in here: letter, A4, A5, so on and so forth. And then there's a custom paper setting that you can use as well, which just involves you putting the sensor at the top and touching the four corners and letting it know what the edges are for that particular device. In this case, we're just really going to go in, and there's different notebooks. It's just like OneNote or something like that, where it has a notebook, and then within each notebook is different pages. And as you can see, I've got a few different pages that are already in here. These are pretty basic stuff that I've just poked around on and messed around with. Nothing too spectacular. I've even had my daughter play with it a little bit, and she drew pictures more than she wrote anything, but even that came over actually really well. So that worked actually a lot better than I thought it would. So really, let's jump right in and get a piece of paper over here. Actually, I believe I still have the stylus on here, so we'll use that first. And I'm going to bring over my handy dandy Spider-Man spiral notebook here. And again, we're going to take this guy and we're going to connect him to the top of this page here, so he doesn't really move around much. Get back into the application here. Let's pull this back a bit.
Connected.
Now, again, this is going to be a little hard to see on the phone from where you're at right there, but I want to show you me actually writing on here, and I'll do that with the actual pen tip as well. And then we'll again, I'll do a separate video that I'll add onto this that will show just the phone screen, and we'll give you a little bit better view of what's going on there. So we'll kind of try and do this right here a little bit, just so you can kind of see it showing up here that I'm actually writing as this is going on. So again, you got to hold it not on the sensor but right back here, and you just kind of start going. So you can see on there I just did a little "this is a test." Yes, my handwriting is horrible, and I'm trying to watch the screen as I'm trying to watch my pen as well. So it's a little bit off as far as my spacing and whatnot. But now the button on here, what that's used for is you can actually push the button and it will tell you where the cursor is or where the pen tip is in relation to what's already been written. Alright, so we know that I'm underneath that right there, so I can go right below that. Blah 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 blah. I can draw lines, I can draw a nice little tesseract here. So you can do you know, just about anything you want with this here. It works very well, obviously, as you can see. Now again, if I put my fingers down here on this a little bit, it doesn't really seem to, well, it's actually working not too bad there, but it does get a little bit choppy if you're down there too far, and it does have a hard time seeing a lot of what you're writing. Now, where this works best for me really is when I'm actually using a pen. So let's go ahead and take the stylus tip out. We'll put this pen on. Place this guy right back in there. Put that to the side. And you do want to be careful when you are replacing the tip. They do tell you not to just cram it in there. There's a little kind of, you know, piping in there that it goes into, and you don't want to put it in sideways or crooked or anything like that. It will cause problems with the sensor, so you do want to be careful as far as that is concerned. Let's actually go ahead and do a new page here, and there's lots of different ways to get a new page. The easiest one for me is just hitting the new page plus button down here, and it will pop that up for you. So again, we just start writing on here. And there you go. That's what shows up on the app, and that's what I got right there. So it seems to work very well. What else can you do with that though? So, you know, if you're somebody who takes a lot of notes like this and have trouble getting it, you know, onto, you know, another device or something like that, then this is definitely something that can help you out with that. Some of the cool stuff you can do with it, and I'm not going to go into everything because there really is a lot that you can do with this. But certainly once you have something over here, you can do different stuff with it. You do have different tools. So you have an eraser tool, you have your basic lasso and select all type tools. You can insert your own text. So if you want to, just type in some text after the fact, you can do that. You can add pictures. You can take a picture from your camera or from the album and insert it as well. And then the really cool thing, and again, I'll get a better view of this when I look at the actual app, but you can do this, change it to actual text, and there you go. It'll actually take that information that you had written, and it will read your handwriting, and depending on how good it is, it actually gives you a pretty good handwriting to text translation of that. In this case, you can see mine was almost perfect. The eBeam it didn't quite like, and it put a period in there, but really that was the only difference. And generally, every time I've tried to do that, it worked very well. I didn't have any problems with it. And of course, you modify this text as well. In this case, we're just going to cancel it. But that's really in a nutshell. Just using the basic function of this of the app and what the ePen can do. Now I'm not a huge note taker on paper. I usually always have a computer or Chromebook or something around that I'm typing on. But there are times when I am writing out my notes, and this would be amazing to have. And to bring all of that information in with my other notes. So let's take a look at some of the other things that you can do with this besides just writing here like that. Okay, so one question that you might have is, do you need to have your phone open and sitting right next to you when you're using this? The answer to that is no. Well, you do need to have the phone with you. Do you need to have it open and sitting right here? No, you don't. For me, for demoing the purpose of this, it helped me a little bit to have it there so you could see that it was actually happening in real time. But you can actually let's go ahead and get rid of a couple of these here real quick, because it's starting to get a little crowded in there. So obviously it's pretty easy to go in here and delete some of these old ones as well. But let's say we're in this guy here. We'll close this down, and I'll put the phone right over here. Just assume that it's off to the side. You can hit this button up here at the top, which will spin around and tell you you're on a new page. So then you can just go in here and go, oh, this is another test, blah blah blah. Another thing that I should mention too is that you want to keep your hand away from, so if you're doing one of these kind of things when you're writing, obviously the sensor is looking down at the page. So if your hand is up here, it's going to block everything. You're not going to get any of these results down here. So anyways, we went ahead and we did that. So if you go back in here and you go back to the app, you can see we have a brand new page. It's actually in the same spot where I was started writing on the page. So if I had a whole new blank page, I could have started up here, and it would be at the top where it's supposed to. But obviously it's a new page, so you do have to open the app. You do have to connect it. But once that's done, you can turn the phone off. You can put it aside, and then you just take your notes and just make sure the sensor's at the top. And when you're on a new page, you hit the new page button, flip it over, keep going, and it works just like that. Now, the other thing that is available here is you can do an eBeam meeting. Now, to do that, you have to download something called, eBeam meeting. And basically what this is that anybody who's in the room with you, who you might want to share what you're doing, or they don't actually need to be in the room with you, actually, it can be anywhere. They can be across town or across country, but as long as you have this installed on their phone or their device or whatever, then you can invite them to join the meeting, and they can actually see what you're writing and what you're drawing or whatever you're doing with the Smartpen in real time. So that is also pretty awesome. And of course, as you're in here, you can go down here and you can share this information. You can share it to email, Facebook, Twitter, blah blah blah, and so you can get the information disseminated that way as well. So let's actually take a little bit closer look at the app itself, so you can get a better view of what I'm seeing and what the app actually looks like. I know that when you're looking at it through the camera, you may be able to see it okay, but it's really a lot easier if we just actually do a recording of the actual phone and what's going on, and you should get a better view and a better look at what's going on in the app and what it looks like when you're actually writing. Okay, so here we are in the actual eBeam note software, and if you hit these three lines in the upper left, you can see you got just kind of your basic table of contents here. It's giving you synchronization settings, your regular settings, which goes through the version information, which language you want to convert to the handwriting text to, your default paper size, which again, as I mentioned, you have a few default ones, and then you can do a custom paper size if you want. And then you can change the sensor name to something a little bit easier to remember, which comes up when you're searching for it in Bluetooth. Nothing too spectacular in anything in there. And then down to Smartpen apps, you have eBeam Meeting and eBeam Keyboard. eBeam Meeting is basically where you can invite other people who have eBeam Meeting installed. You can invite them to see what you're writing in real time. So if you are doing a flow diagram, or you're writing some notes out, or doing a list or something, somebody can actually you can invite somebody to join and see your screen and see what's being written as you're doing it. Now the eBeam keyboard is a little interesting. I haven't actually tried this out, so I don't know how well it works because I don't have anybody really to do this with. But you can actually use that to, if you were texting somebody, you can actually, or chatting with them in a chatting app, you can actually use the eBeam keyboard to write your message out. So it's going to automatically change that to text and send it. But instead of typing on your keyboard, you're actually going to be, or typing on your on-screen keyboard, I should say, you can actually use the pen to actually write something. I'm not sure how viable that really is, but it's something that you can do, and kind of sounds pretty interesting. I just haven't had a chance to actually try it myself yet. So this is the main screen here. If you had multiple notebooks, they'd be listed here. I only have the one, but you can see it gives you a little bit of information. You have 4 pages. You have a plus button all the way at the top here. That is what would create a new notebook if you wanted to do that. Synchronize, and then edit down at the bottom, which allows you to change the existing notebook's names. You can delete it or share it, whatever you want to do. In this case, we're just going to go into the one that's in here, and I have just a few different pages in here of stuff that I've used for just testing. And as you can see, again, you got some of the stuff that my lovely daughter had been drawn, and just regular test stuff that I have on here. So while you're in here, you can then go through and change some of these different options in here, and that's done by this icon in the upper right. And each one of these gives a couple of different options for you. So the first one allows you to change the pen color and the thickness if you wanted to do that. You have an eraser, which has a few different options. Of course, there's clear all, which is pretty obviously clears everything on the screen. Your standard eraser, which just works like your regular eraser, so any swipe that you make, it's erasing whatever you're swiping through. And a stroke eraser is kind of neat. So instead of just erasing, just as you're swiping through, it'll actually erase that particular thing that you're clicking on. So whatever letter it is, whatever stroke, basically. I found it's a little hard with my big fat fingers to get the right strokes on there, but that is a way that you can use the eraser as well. Of course, you also have your standard selection tools: lasso, select all. You have a text screen here, so you can come in here and put a little bit of text in there and insert it wherever you want. You have a different camera and or different picture insert here, so you can insert something from your camera or from your album that you have. Now the cool thing, and let's get rid of that text down there, and actually let's see if we can go back to how this was when we started, is you can use this one right here, and it will take that text and make it into an actual, this is the text conversion, right? So that's really all you need to do. You just punch that one button, and it will go through everything that you've listed on that page and convert it to text. As you can see, this seems to work actually very well, and I haven't had any problems with it. Occasionally, because I have terrible handwriting, it will mess some of the stuff up and won't have all the quite correct wordings. It especially has problems if I'm doing something with dashes, or where my punctuation lies. I'm not always the best emphasizing some of that, so sometimes it doesn't come through properly in my writing, but is definitely something that you can't fix or get better at as you're going through. And as you can see, even through this, you have a few different options as far as changing what you've selected here as well. So that is basically the nuts and bolts of this, just from what you're looking at when you get into one of these pages, and how you can manipulate some of the data that's in here. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick look at actually me writing on a new page here. Okay, so you hit that plus at the top, and it will bring up a whole new blank page. Now I've got one here ready. So let's go ahead and start writing something pretty generic, as I have in every one of these pages. So there you go. There's just one real quick sentence. Now, of course, you can also, draw. So if you wanted to do some kind of flow diagram here, whatever you wanted to do, you can do anything like this. And this is really where it would come in neat for trying to bring somebody else into the meeting and seeing what you're doing here. So you have all this kind of information here as well that you can be passing on to multiple people if you wanted to do that. Now again, I mentioned that the button on the pen actually works to show you where you are on the page. So if I click that, you can actually see the tip of my pen is actually showing up in the application. So this is particularly useful if you're just using the stylus and not using the actual pen and actual writing, because obviously if you're writing on a page, you're going to see where you've already written at, and you're just going to be able to start at the next spot. You just jump in here and go, whatever you need to write over here, right? But if you have a stylus and you're not actually writing anything, you don't actually know where you've already written, and sometimes hard to keep track of that. So pushing that button will tell you, okay, well here I'm below where my little drawing is, so I can keep going right here. Oops, that should be right there, huh? Okay. So there you go. That's basically it. I mean, that's the standard way of using this, just the basic options that you have, and how you can kind of change some of the text and edit some of the information in there, what it looks like when you're typing, and I mean I'm sorry, when you're writing. And that's it. It's fairly simple once you get used to using it, and it does seem to work very well. So that's it. Okay, so there you go. That is the eBeam Smartpen by Luidia, and that is Luidia. It does what it says it's going to do. It seems to work very well. Once I, really the hardest part is just kind of figuring out where to put everything, and how to use it, and what the buttons do, and how to get new pages and all that kind of stuff. But once you get all that figured out, it really seems to work very well. So if you're a person who takes a lot of notes, and then struggles to get those organized with, you know, any electronic notes you might take or any other information that you want to try and include it in, this is definitely something that you might want to take a look at. You know, there's a lot of different options out there for this kind of stuff. There's different notepads that you can buy in the special, you know, Smartpens that, you know, you got to use a special paper, and that's a way that you know, some people have traditionally taken notes and electronically moved it over to you know, whatever device or to the cloud or whatever. This is just another way of doing it, and I think this is a little bit better than those options because you don't have to have a dedicated notepad. You know, a lot of those, you know, you have to buy special paper or special notebook to use those. This you don't. You use whatever you have, or you use nothing at all, and it works. It works great. It works very well. I'm definitely going to be trying it out a little bit more in my work and seeing how well it works for me. And that's really about it. So I hope that this video has been useful to you. I will be using this, you know, going forward, so I will have it for a while. So if you do have questions, please let me know, and I will do my best to answer them for you. Again, if it was helpful, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I hope to see you again here at HyperDog Digital next time. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time. Hello and welcome to HyperDog Digital. This is Scott. Today we got something very special for you. This is the Luidia eBeam Smartpen. I probably butchered that name, Luidia. And this is actually a device that was on one of those crowdfunding websites. I can't remember if it was Indiegogo or Kickstarter, but I did get this just the other day. So let's go ahead and pop this open and take a look at it. To give you a little bit of background on what this is, it's basically a little pen and a sensor that you can put at the top of your paper, so that when you're taking notes, you're drawing something, it will take that information and it will turn it into an electronic document that you can share to other people, or you can save in a notes app of some kind. So let's go ahead and just take a look at this. You have your instructions right here. And this is the eBeam device itself. As you can see, it's really slick looking, and it's got a little case that it unfolds here. And this case is kind of a soft material here. It's kind of like the kind of material that you'd find on some of the flap cases on tablets, where you know, it'll have the magnetic flap that'll go over the top of the tablet. It's exactly the same kind of material, really, as you'll see on those kind of things. Move out a little bit. So this is the pen itself, and you can remove it just by pulling on the back. And there you go, right there. And you can see on here right now is the stylus tip. So you can use this as a stylus. You can write on nothing, and it will still record what you're writing. Or you can, there is actually a pen tip, and we'll take a look at that real quick as well. So you can actually write on paper, and it will record what you're writing on paper to whatever app you're using there. Now on the bottom here, you actually pull this out, and this is the sensor, and you actually put that on top of a piece of paper, and we'll use these instructions here. That's kind of a demo of that. You got a little flap here on the bottom, and you can put that right there so it holds it in place, and then you do your writing down here. You can see that holds on right there. You have to make sure you center it up, and you do your writing right there. You got a couple of buttons on here. Power button. You have a new page button, so as you're writing, if you want to do a new page, you punch that and it will save what you have and then create a new page for you. You got a couple of indicator lights. This is the sensor itself that tracks what you're writing, and a couple of points there for when you put it in here and you charge it. Now before I put that back in, you can also see down here is the actual ink pen cartridge, So you can pull out the stylus, and we'll show you. On this side you have your charger, or your charging port, I'm sorry, and that's a mini USB port there. And then to remove the tip, you actually use this little area right here, and basically I actually thought this was a USB Type-C connection until I read the instructions. It's just